Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. It is currently the 18th of March, the 19th of March, the 20th of March. I've never been outside of Europe and I'm flying to Taiwan in 2 days. Tomorrow and today. Hello everybody, thank you so much for stopping by. I have the biggest smile on my face because I am so excited to be sharing this video with you. I took my time putting it all together because I really wanted to create something special in respect of what an amazingly interesting and welcoming country Taiwan is. I'm going to be taking you along in a chronological order, more or less, and showing you what I did, what I ate, what I saw, what I experienced, and most of all, what I learned. The flight itself was around about 17 hours, I want to say, so we arrived pretty crusty, as you can imagine. But our hosts had already prepared this amazing dinner for us, including some Taiwanese national dishes and also a Viennese white wine, which I thought was such a lovely gesture. So we had some sweetened tomatoes, some samphire to start with, and the pièce de résistance, traditional Taiwanese beef noodle soup, which was actually brought over at the end of the Chinese Civil War in 1949 by Chinese nationalist soldiers that missed the taste of their homeland, and so they created this absolutely umami explosion, which was gorgeous. After dinner, we kind of walked around a little bit, found this cool arcade, and then both of us went to 7-Eleven. We just really wanted some Taiwanese snacks and to kind of sit and relax and take in everything that we were experiencing before our hectic schedule the next day. So this is where it gets crazy. This was our first full day in Taipei, and this is the view from my hotel room. I could have just sat in front of this view for the 3 days I was there and been so grateful and so fulfilled. It's a stunning place. The amount of greenery is just, I'm speechless. This was the main street outside our hotel, and in the morning Christina and I went for a little ramble together to find some coffee and have a look around. And I have to say the architecture is one of the things I found most fascinating in Taipei. They have huge Portuguese, Spanish and Dutch influences, and there's still a lot of Dutch contemporary architecture there today. We found a coffee shop, HWC. It was fantastic. I had the most amazing coffee with lemon zest in it and lemon juice. It was something I was not used to in the slightest, so it took a little bit of getting used to, but I would love to have it again. And also a tiny little pineapple bun with some butter inside, which was sweet and unctuous and delightful. The best way I can describe my feeling upon arriving in Taipei was like falling in love with somebody new. Everything around you is more vibrant. The colors and your senses feel overloaded with joy. I should never underestimate the power of visiting other cultures and countries. One of the biggest things I wanted to do in Taipei was just eat. I love food so much, and we got some sushi, which was fantastic. The quality is insanely good. I think this was with eel and some caramelized cheese on top, but it's worth noting this was 130 Taiwanese dollars, which is only €3.75 or $4. How crazy is that?
If you have an opportunity to just visit the world, I think if the opportunity is presented to you to see the world, it's so worth it. It's so worth it. And that seems like an obvious statement, but I'm here and I'm so overwhelmed and grateful and intrigued by how gorgeous this place is. I woke up at 10, Jet lag seems to be okay. We were about 7 hours ahead. I got myself some sushi. We went to a coffee place first, but then I was hungry afterwards, and we have a big amount of work to do this afternoon, so I wanted to make sure I'm full. But the sushi is so beautiful, so fresh, and living in a landlocked country, I really miss fresh fish and seafood. I absolutely love it. And to come to an island where it's everywhere is just insane. Ah! What I've also noticed is that I have just smashed 12 pieces of sushi in a very short space of time, and it's sitting so comfortably. I find that when I eat that much sushi that quickly in Vienna, it's heavy and I feel a bit bloated. I don't feel so good, but it's such good quality that it's almost like just gently inhaling some beautiful tasting air. It's so good.
It's pretty crazy to me that whilst I was in Taipei, my office for the 3 days I was there was located amongst these gorgeous buildings. Most notably is this wonderful white building that's behind me as I'm filming this very long clip of myself, which is the Chiang Kai-shek Memorial. And this is dedicated to the late president himself, who died in 1975. And the roof itself is octagonal, which is a number of good fortune in Chinese culture. Each set of steps consists of 89 separate steps, which is the age he was when he passed away. And this is the view looking down to the Chiang Kai-shek Arch. This was really the most beautiful plaza, and I remember just being in awe. I think when you go to other countries and you see other cultures, you really learn to appreciate different ways of life, different traditions, and when you bring that home, it's a brilliant thing to have learnt, because I find, at least, that I then continue to respect and have time for people who work in different ways and think in different ways. And that has been a big lesson I've taken away from this whole trip. Isn't it beautiful? Look at that. So just dreamy. So one of the most beloved elements of night culture in Taipei are the night markets, which are open until midnight, and you can go and try a variety of different street food. Christina and me were released into the streets of Taipei when work finished at around about 10 p.m. and we'd planned to go to the Raohe Street Night Market, which is very, very well known and has some amazing traditional street food dishes from Taiwan. To be honest, at this point in the evening, Christina and me were pretty jet-lagged, very hungry, and so overstimulated and excited by everything we were seeing, so the footage is somewhat chaotic, but I'm going to try and take you through as clearly as possible everything we tried and tasted and how we felt. Our first delicacy was out of this world. This is the pepper bun, which was invented in Fuzhou in China and consists of a bread dumpling in which beef mixed with soy sauce and pepper, and I think 5 spice as well, and sugar is baked in this massive charcoal pot. You can see Christina's face here. She's having the time of her life. I would love to eat another one of those now. It was possibly the best thing we had, to be brutally honest. Next up, I think, was possibly, do you know what? I don't even remember what that was. I think it was some cranberry juice. But it was really, really good, and it was everything I needed to wash down that dumpling. After a little bit of research, I found out something really cool about this next snack, which is the pandan leaf cake, and actually originates in Malaysia and Singapore. These countries used to be British overseas territories, and there was a lot of European colonization in Southeast Asia. So at some point, their baking skills were mixed with different ingredients from Asia, and that is how this beautiful little green flowery cake was made, and it tasted so good. It was definitely just sweet and buttery and bouncy and gave me good feels. Night markets in Taipei, as I found out, can be a great place to get accessories or clothes, things for the home, and I picked up a few things for Florian and me's new apartment. Oh, this particular snack was such an amazing experience. These are the grilled barbecue king oyster mushrooms, and there were 2 or 3 stalls in the night market preparing and serving this particular delicacy, but this guy just attracted me instantly because he was having so much fun. And when you see somebody who's really enjoying preparing what you're about to eat, it attracts you so much. The way he would shake the seasoning and dance, and there was some club music in the background, it was just wonderful. He made me smile so much because he looked as if he was having so much fun. Talking of fun, one of the things I love about Christina the most is her face when she eats food. It's so expressive. We both agreed that this was a flavor we'd never experienced before. Definitely umami, but with a depth that I don't think I've ever experienced in the UK. The texture was very similar to that of squid, I would say, with a very deep umami taste that was lifted with the zesty edge of lime. Our last choice was an absolute smasher. Christina discovered this as I was gathering the last of my souvenirs. This translates as Liu's freshly roasted corn and is effectively corn that's turned and barbecued with a layer of oyster sauce and spice mixture that is cooked down to a hard, very concentrated, flavoursome crust. As you can see, it was something totally new for us and we were quite bowled over by it. It was definitely a new experience. Having what I thought was 5 spice at the time coating my lips. It wasn't our favorite thing, I would say, but definitely an experience, and I love corn anyway. Christina and I could have 100% gone for another 2 hours, but everything closes at midnight in the night markets anyway. So we went to 7-Eleven and looked around the snacks again because we reaped so much joy from seeing the different tidbits that are enjoyed in Taipei. Got ourselves a beer and Christina some peach thing, and we drank it outside and just took in the scenery again, and then went home and slept, which was lovely. Day 2 of being in Taipei, and we were fully in our element at this point and raring to go. This is Xinmin Street, which is located very near to the hotel we were staying in, and which is a lovely, quiet corner street with a couple of places to get food. Most of the time we went out for breakfast because we just wanted to see as much of Taipei as possible in the short time we were there. But the breakfast selection was fantastic in the hotel, and I came across a tea-stained egg, which made me so happy. I knew it was tea-stained, but I didn't think it would be to this extent, but to see that bluey-greeny inside just made me exhilarated.
Good morning. It's too early for Christina, so it's just going to be me. I thought that this was just an egg that was slightly stained with tea.
We were so lucky before work to actually have some time to explore, and I have to say originally I was not set on going to Taipei 101. I wanted to look at some more of the back streets in Taipei and get a feeling for different shops and the vibe, but Christina and some other work colleagues convinced me to go, and I'm so glad because it was fantastic. I mean, I couldn't afford a blooming thing in that building. I think there was like one Zara, but then beyond that you had Cartier, you had Gucci, but there was a really beautiful portrait gallery in the foyer which I loved looking at. The real pièce de résistance though, and something I was so glad to see, was the view from Taipei 101, which was absolutely phenomenal. Upon completion in 2004, Taipei 101 was classified as the tallest building in the world, but that was overtaken in 2010 by the Burj Khalifa. Nevertheless, the lift goes from the 5th to the 89th floor in 37 seconds, and I remember the woman over the tannoy was telling us to swallow to neutralize the pressure. And I was, yeah, that's what she said. It remains the greenest, tallest building in the world, and especially designed to withstand tropical storms and earthquakes. So after a lot of frolicking, we were required by work to take a high-speed train to a city in the south of Taiwan, which is the oldest city on the island, called Tainan. The history of this city is so vast. I would love to be able to go again and actually take time to explore the place. This was definitely one of the more enjoyable requirements I've had from my job. We were only there, unfortunately, a couple of hours, but our hosts were so kind and gave us some epic food. This basically sums up my happy place food-wise. Any food that I saw in Taipei that I could get my hands on went straight in my mouth. And you know, it's really interesting because a colleague that I went to Taipei with was telling me yesterday that she didn't want to eat any of the meat, any of the fish. She just wanted to eat simply because she was worried about food poisoning. And each to their own, because everyone has struggles when they visit a new country. But I'm so grateful that specific thing didn't bother me, because my experience would not have been anywhere near as colourful if I had not eaten everything that I wanted to. A really magical part of Taiwan's culture is tea. And we were so lucky that specific weekend we were in Tainan was the same time this tea festival was happening. They were selling the most beautiful teapots you can imagine. The workmanship was unbelievable, and I ended up picking up this beautiful travel teapot with 2 little teacups inside. I don't think I'm going to travel with it, to be honest, because it's far too beautiful and I just want it to be on display forever. At around about 11:30, we took the bullet train back to Taipei, sleepy and in desperate need of food, which was provided in the form of 2 lovely buns. I really loved that combination of salty and sweet in snacks in Taipei. The first had cheese cubes on top, but a gently sweet custard inside, and the other had red bean paste, which is a fairly new flavor for me, and I really enjoy it. On our last day in Taipei, I took the opportunity of taking some time for myself and visiting Dihua Street on the west side of the city. Now, this was actually a big challenge for me because up until this point, I'd spent all my time with Christina, and this was my first experience in Taipei completely on my own, and it was kind of intimidating. I only ever felt safe as a woman walking alone in Taipei, but when you're walking around a city that you don't know, in a continent you've never been to, with a language you don't understand, a little part of your armor gets taken away, and I felt very vulnerable and I felt very unsure. But one of the really interesting effects of feeling that way was that my body completely slowed down. I had to check very carefully where I was going, I had to be conscientious, and because of that, I saw so much more. It was such a great feeling. Normally, I'm rushing from A to B and I'm trying to cram as much as I can into the day, but that day, I actually just stopped and looked and took everything in and made sure that I was looking after myself, and it was a wonderful feeling. So now that we finished our train journey, I welcome you all to Dihua Street. Oh, I was so excited to visit this area. It's located in the west of Taipei and is the oldest street in Taipei and was an important center for commerce in Taiwanese products like medicinal herbs, fabrics, incense, and you can still buy a lot of beautiful things along this street. I have to say my nerves got the better of me at some point, so I just did a lot of kind of sightseeing and not really buying of things, but I was brave enough to go into this beautiful bookshop, which was just the architecture was so gorgeous and it was so quiet and relaxing. And what I noticed was that the books that are published in Taiwan and China as well, I presume, are so beautiful. They take such care with the illustrations, with the font, with the colors that they use, and really they looked a lot more attractive and expensive and beautiful than published books I find in European countries a lot of the time. Oh my god, I'm actually salivating thinking about this meal. Christina and I met each other again in the Xinyi district and we went to a lovely Japanese restaurant. Look how happy she looks. And I had a lovely meal, a steak donburi. It was delicious and the garlic chips were so good. And we had a beautiful cold beer, which was just chef's kiss, exactly what I needed on that incredibly humid day. This pudding, I have no clue what it was. I still don't know. I was too scared to ask and I wish I had. But the best way I can describe it is it was very like the tears of Ghibli. I also want to mention, as what I think is a banging tip if you're ever going to visit Taipei, is do not forget about convenience store coffee. Christina took me to a very typical either 7-Eleven or another convenience store, told me to get a big coffee, which I think was in the region of like €1, and it was epic. It was perfect. It was great tasting coffee, good quality, amazingly creamy milk, and no joke, one of the best coffees I think I've tasted for a long time. I really wish I'd had more of those. So how do I begin to sum up my time in Taipei? What proof do I have that this lemonage opportunity where I set fear and control aside actually paid off? How do I know that this was worth it? I have thought about my visit to Taipei possibly every day since I came back. And when I think about it, it's with joy. I have never tasted food like that. I have never seen scenery like that. I've never experienced humidity like that. And seeing how people live on the other side of the world has taught me that what feels like a big world to me is not so big. The life that I lead every single day feels like the be-all and end-all, and that's not to diminish how I feel, but it's actually, in comparison with all of us around the world, much smaller than I think and much more connected to somebody who lives elsewhere. This was something that I learned when I first came to Vienna, and I work with so many different women from different countries, and the one fascinating thing that ties us together is no matter where we come from and what our culture is and how we act and what we're used to, we all have the same dreams. We all want the same things from life.